All right, you're back.
Yep, got disconnected.
Technical difficulties. This is what happens when you have a African internet connection.
Said I'm writing you this letter and letting you know that my brother, he go better, even better. Oh, na, 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 na. I'm writing you this letter and letting you know that my sister, he go better, even better.
All right, so
Awesome.
this is the Better Informed Immigrant Podcast, where we discuss items that apply to us and we hope could be helpful to other African immigrants in the diaspora. So, KD, you and I have been arguing about doing podcasts and the different ways to do this idea or that idea.
Yeah,
We finally decided to stop arguing on the phone and just start recording the podcast instead.
awesome. Yeah, so I think the best way to get this started would be for me to at least break down the idea that I have, even though it's not podcast related, and the process for the ideation and implementation of that idea. And hopefully, I can convince you that we can apply it to how we get this podcast to work. So,
So,
uh,
before you do that, maybe
yeah.
talk a little bit about what we were arguing about on the phone for about 20 minutes before we decided to actually start recording the podcast instead of. So, give me a little bit of background so people can understand what's going on.
Well, so the argument was based on deciding either to make this number one a video podcast versus audio podcast. Before that, we started with the timing and also the idea for the podcast, how it should go or not go, what the content value should be. And you were of the opinion that we have not even recorded anything yet. So why are we spending that time trying to discuss all this other stuff? And I was of the opinion that I also have new knowledge about ways to actually test out this stuff even before we record anything, which is off of my reading Noah Kagan's book, $1 Million Weekend. But I'm going to quickly proceed and just break down this new idea that I have and how to go about implementing it. Even though there are some secret codes I'll be revealing with these steps, but again, that's the purpose of this of this podcast to kind of like provide information. Uh, so one of the key points that I was able to pick out from reading that book was the process of testing out ideas and quickly deciding a winner before you even spend too much time even like doing anything. You can actually test out if it's a winner, because no one wants to ride with a loser. So everyone wants to ride with a winner. And because there's a way to actually test it out and see if it's a winner before you get into it. And I think attaching this to an idea that I have would be a way to break down the steps for applying this idea. So uh, initially, we'd worked with a company before to create this air conditioner and shampoo. Um, and from listening to Noah Kagan, I kind of decided that it would be easier for me to actually test this by reaching out to a couple of friends and contacts and telling them, hey guys, I just discovered this new uh, beard ointment or cream that would enhance the quality of your bird, and it would help you increase and also help you refine it in a way. Um, and if you can support me and commit to maybe subscribing for me to supply you this for the next 3 months, I'll be willing to give you at half the price that it will go for retail when it does launch. And his way of establishing that is, especially if you look into your network, definitely some people who don't really care about you, but there's some who actually wish you success in a way. And because they wish you success, they want to support you. But then you're not only going to them because you're trying to get them to start paying you. You're also trying to get them to keep you accountable for the business you're about to get into, like making sure you grow the business and you can show them your growth journey. Because of that, if I'm reaching out to them and saying, hey guys, I have this new beard treatment and it's going to retail for $20, but if you can commit to 6 months, I can sell it to you for $10. I can just send you a link right now, a PayPal link, if you can, or even if you want to sell me the money, right? So bear in mind, I have not really contacted the manufacturer yet. I have not sat down to really work out the details for really establishing this business. I probably would have at least some idea for retail price, manufacturing cost, so I know what my margins would be. But I don't have complete detail for what this product will look like or how I'm going to sell it. I just want to test what the market is for this thing. If I reach out to maybe 5 friends and each one of them is telling me, well, I don't really know if I need a beard cream right now, or I don't see the need for it. That's a way for me to, I'm already getting feedback. But if from 5 friends, maybe 3 or 4 of them is already saying, wow, I was actually looking for a beard cream, maybe I can try yours. Okay, I'll pay you $10, because they kind of feel like, okay, I'm getting a deal, but then I'm also helping my friend. You get commitment. And you don't stop there. So what he was saying was, within a weekend, you could call a couple of friends, run your product idea by them, and get a commitment in terms of money, which means you're already making money even before you start the business in a way. And he said after doing that, you're also asking the friends, hey, do you know a couple of guys who you think might actually have like a beard problem that might benefit from a product like this? You want to share some contacts? He said from that, maybe the guys, oh yeah, I have a couple of friends. I'll text you their information right now. Just tell them from me. He said then you will reach out to those ones and say, hey guys, Kunle asked me to reach out to you, or Paul asked me to reach out to you. He said maybe you'll be interested in a beard cream. My name is this, my company name is this. I'm about to launch a beard cream, and it's going to help with this, help with that. Hey, I still haven't talked to the manufacturer yet. So basically, in a weekend, he said it's possible to actually test if your product is a winner or it's not a winner at all, it's a loser. And it's fine. You can quickly iterate or make plans or start to brainstorm other ideas, because again, ideas are dime a dozen. The main problem is which one is going to make you money. And because time is precious, he was saying that if you have a way of testing it even before, like, because he said AppSumo is like a software for, he set up the platform to showcase deals for discounted softwares from different industry. So financial industry, web design, is able to provide discounted software, especially because this company, sometimes they run promos that you're not aware of. So what he's done is aggregated all these deals in AppSumo to provide it to people who might benefit from it. And he said, I think to get started, he used the same concept, basically just by reaching out to a couple of people. And I think he spent $100 to set up a page. And now it's a multi-million-dollar business. But he had a chance to at least kind of see if he was solving a problem within a short period of time to get it going. So that's, again, a quick, I don't know how long I took to explain all that, but
Chairman, it took a lot of time. I was trying to get to like what did they talk about, but I didn't. Okay, so I understand what you're saying, but I don't understand the application. I don't have anything to. I can argue with you about some of the details, but the reality of the situation is I don't really have anything negative or against those points. I guess my question I would ask you is, let's talk about something practical, right?
Mhm.
Because that was just, you're not. Are you trying to do a shampoo and conditioner product or a beard
Yes,
ointment?
in my case, I actually have the manufacturer.
So you want to use that as an example. All right, so let's use that. Do you use a beard ointment today?
I don't, but I've been looking to get one because I kind of always feel like my beard after going to the salon does not get any kind of treatment. And I've seen people, I don't know if it is just too much social media or too much packaging, that it's kind of like shiny and black. They have treatment that I'd apply to it. And I was already thinking if I should buy one or use it because I kind of feel like my beard does not get any kind of treatment. And I like how people do treat it. Was
Okay.
why.
So let me ask you a different question.
Mhm.
When you talk about your friend network that you're going to ask, right?
Yeah,
Do you know if they currently use beard augments today?
I
Like
don't, which
name,
is the purpose of
give me
asking.
the first names of your friends that you're going to ask. Like if you were going to actually do this, who are going to be the 5 people you're going to call? Just the first name.
Well, I have Jude in New Jersey will be like the easiest one.
Okay. Yeah, and let us go through. Okay, so Jude, who else?
There's Shola here in Connecticut. So so there are at least 5 Bolu. So there's a couple of people in Connecticut and outside of Connecticut that I can call and ask them.
Okay, so let's go through that list. Jude, do you think Jude is going to go buy a beard augment?
Which is fine, but again, remember the purpose of this is for me to get quick feedback.
No, the purpose of this, I think you have to kind of apply it to the right thing, right? So I think that your friends, the people you mentioned, are Nigerians. We both know that Nigerians are very skeptical people, right? In general, even if they're your friends, I would say that I would be willing to bet money that if you call those people up to ask them this idea, especially the way you just described it, that 0 of them will sign up. Not because they don't want the beard solution. I just don't think they will sign up because
I think they will
of
sign up.
skepticism. All right. You know what? Try it out. Let me know.
Yeah, I think the reason I think they will sign up is, remember again, I mentioned aside from the value it's providing, they also have the idea of, oh, let me support my friend. Because think about it.
I beg.
It's
Chairman,
$10. Think
you
about
and I
it.
both know that we have friends in our network that we try to do things together all the time. And how many of them have been successful so far? 0.
Yeah, but in this case, this is a low ticket item.
Oh,
It's $10 per month for 6 months. It's just $60.
Are you?
It's just
You collect a Nigerian man will spend $60 at Starbucks, but we give it to his friend to start a business. No,
I don't know. I think
that's not
there's a
true for all Nigerians.
salesperson.
But you know what I mean?
The
Like,
salesperson aspect of it, though. You have to be able to sell.
what do you mean you have to be able to sell?
I kind of feel like I have the ability to sell. Like I can make a call and convince them to pay the money.
Okay. You know what?
Either they like
Make the call,
product.
and next week tell me about it. Make the call and next week tell me about it. I don't think so. I think what's going to happen is going to be posting. You know what I mean? And for those of you that don't know what that means, really, it just means when a Nigerian gives you an answer by not giving you an answer. Oh yeah, I will do it, but they never do it. They just hoping for time to run out. I think that's what you're going to get.
Again, it gives you also a sense of maybe I need to check my network of friends and look for new friends. You see, all this exercise, it works either for your business or for the sake of your sanity, for your progress. Any of this exercise, it has a solution. If I call 5 people and none of them want to pay $1, I don't have friends. I need to go online. Create a new network of friends.
Oh my god! Oh god! Oh. No.
I think that's why in Silicon Valley or among billionaires, they always say like your net worth is your network or something like that, because they know the kind of people they have. Also, I think you're right from a perspective that Noah Kagan, when he mentioned his relationships and network, he was talking about like a founder of another company that connected him to another guy. He had a couple of network that helped him grow into a millionaire. because of at least the friends or the connections that he has, which I felt the way you felt too when I was listening to it, that, hey, dude, I know this is practical, but again, your network helped you. You don't know our network. Our network is quite different. Um, but again, it kind of put in a perspective, like if you're going to go to a place, you need to surround yourself with people that would encourage you and support you to where you want to go. So if I have people that I'm calling right now, I'm saying commit $60 to my dream, and you are doing today, tomorrow, lose my number. Even if you don't need the oil treatment, you can give that as a gift to somebody.
Oh, yeah, I love the way you said that. Like, lose my number.
Actually, so I remember
Wow.
that in the book, he did say if you call somebody and they are not interested, don't be afraid to hear a no. Use that as a springboard to the next step, which means if the guy says he doesn't really need it, ask him, does he know somebody who he thinks might actually need it? Because if you repeat the process and you go to the person that might actually need it, there's a chance that the guy that actually needs it know other guys that also needs it.
Chairman. Yes. So as a sales tactic, I don't have a problem against the principle. But again, I look at your network, and I know you know a lot of different people from different parts of the world. So that's not the point. But when I look at the network, I'm looking at it specifically your Nigerian network, and I'm asking myself the question: do you think that would be an effective strategy in that particular domain? I'm not so sure.
Are you thinking about it from just this one product perspective, or you're thinking about it generally?
I think about it from the one product perspective, right? I think generally you could probably find a product that could work, right? So for example, you know James, Pa James,
Mhm.
right? So Pa James is a big fan of music. For example, he's very musical. I don't know that he sings anything, but he knows the different Nigerian artists and Afrobeat artists and all those kind of people, right? So if I
Yeah.
called him up and say, hey, I have this new artist. This is his album. We're trying to get this album published, and he listens to it and he likes the album. James will actually contribute money, right? So he's somebody I know will contribute money towards something like that, right?
Mm.
So I think, yeah. So I think even though he's of Nigerian descent, right? Like I think it might, it could work in certain areas. Um, but I also know that if I send that to all of our friends, some of them is not going to. Even some of them that like music a lot, I know they're not going to do any investment in that kind of thing, right? I just think for some reason or another we're just very skeptical people, and sometimes it makes it a little bit challenging to collaborate, as you know. Um, so I guess let's go backwards a little bit, right? So I hear you, but when we started talking about this, you were talking about the podcast. And I was getting a little bit frustrated because I was saying, hey, why are we having all this conversation about the podcast when we've not actually recorded the podcast yet? Let's record a few podcasts before talking about ideas. So when you were bringing this up earlier, were you bringing it up in respect to the podcast, or were you just bringing it up as a different concept to think about?
I was bringing up as a concept to think about in refining or defining what the podcast could be or would be as we proceed, because it
Okay.
gives us a chance to kind of like get feedback. And also, it was a way for me to buy time by saying, okay, if we maybe figure out. Also, I think we're still like debating that idea between is this more something that we're just trying to do, knowing if it's going to pay for itself, because like we already talked about, we're setting up our time aside to do this. Um, Even though for me, I'm more committed to the money aspect of it. Like this is
Come on,
better
Ninja.
make money.
You are a true Nigerian. Oh my lord,
This is
you know
better
what they
make
said when they said
so,
Nigeria know they carry last, they should have said that they know they do stuff for free.
I'm like, this is better make money because I just want to make sure aside from the fun aspect of it, that the time also, I think the money aspect, I think, would create more encouragement, because you can have fun anytime. Like if it's a fun thing, I can do it whenever I feel like. But when there's numbers attached to it, dollars and values, we start to assign time separately and say, okay,
Oh my
this in
God.
this special attention. This not is not the one that you'll be missing 1 week or 2 weeks. You start to plan for it separately. So that I think was going to be a motivating factor in deciding and having an understanding of how this will make money, to then know if it's worth getting on camera to do this again, which is why I suggested should we do audio because at least with that we don't have to set up the camera, we don't have to see if the camera is or not. We just roll. So
that's so funny. So all right, so a few more questions before I kind of respond. Number one is that I need to ask you if you remember when we started talking about doing this podcast, what we thought the goals were going to be, and maybe we need to write that down and make sure it's kind of. But I guess my question is, what do you recall from our conversations about what the goal of the podcast is and how we were going to go do it? So, and don't answer the question yet. The second part I was going to say is that I hear everything you're saying, but maybe we should have this conversation after we've recorded like a few podcasts rather than before we record or while we're recording the first one. So let me hear what your thoughts are about that as well.
Gotcha. So the first one, the goal, so when we started, the goal was mostly going to be informational, and we're going to start with like newspapers, where we'll have a couple of
No,
newspapers.
that was the way we were going to do it. The goal of the podcast, not how we were going to actually like what the podcast structure was going to be. I'm talking about the goal of the podcast.
Yeah, the goal was strictly going to be informational, to provide information and some level of education with the podcast. So to immigrants,
right? No, well, quantify that a little bit more. I mean, we had a lengthy conversation about it. Okay, you don't forget. You just have to go.
This is the aspect where the money becomes important.
Oh my Lord!
So
we weren't talking about money, so you forgot.
That's what happened. We talk about so many goals and ideas, but we didn't talk about how we're going to meet it.
Oh my Lord! Oh, so all right. So
and then we talked about the community aspect of it, where it can also become something that expands to. Our goal is to create a community of immigrants. We can also have experts. People will talk about different things that they know.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we did, like you said, because we didn't write it down, but we did talk about. I think we have a note somewhere for this too. But it was going to be more than just information and education. It was going to include having a community and experts also joining in to kind of share their ideas, which in a way would then provide like an information portal for immigrants to at least glean from after we have the content out there.
Yeah, you're completely right. So that's why the podcast is called the Better Informed Immigrants, right? In the sense that we are both immigrants. I'm like, I guess, depending on how you look at it, I'm like a first or second generation immigrant, and you are the first generation immigrant, and I'm the second generation immigrant, right? And the stuff was saying, hey, based on our life experiences, there are challenges that immigrants face. Some of them, because we don't know any better, we don't have the information, and we thought we would have a podcast like this where we can discuss those issues and hopefully provide information that would be helpful to the immigrant community wherever they are in their stage in life, right? And also, we understand we may not necessarily have all the answers. We could also bring in experts in their domain who can provide information that's relevant. So, for example, there will be times when we may talk about immigration, right? People that are going through immigration challenges and how to navigate that. There may be stuff like, how do you navigate college, or how do you navigate all the stuff? Basically, what we've learned in our life, and hopefully information that could actually be available to other folks, but focused on the African immigrants primarily. I think that was really the key thing. We wanted to make it focus on them because they have, I don't know that their challenges are any different from any other immigrant group. I just think that sometimes we are not as open with our challenges to get input from other people because they have already gone ahead in that journey. So we always, an African family, sometimes we feel as if it's too shameful to kind of talk about your weaknesses. So that's a good point. So next time we have a conversation about this, you know what I'm going to start with? This is how we're going to make money.
That's the motivating.
No, I mean, hopefully, I do hope that this thing grows and that it at least pays for itself, right? And if it does better than that, then we can even just use it to create opportunities for people on the continent, right? But
I'm also
I don't want to lie to you. I don't think this is going to be like replacing our job or anything like that. This is going to be more like, trying to help other people kind of thing.
Yeah.
You were going to say I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Oh no, sorry. I was going to say I'm used to getting into a meeting about projects, and all I start to hear is, imagine if we get 50 people to register for this, 100 people, and they are paying $500 or $2,500. See, that's $250,000. And imagine your first takeout is $50,000. So the money is already, we've not even done one. We're already analyzing the money. So that's where I was trying to get us to where we can start discussing, okay, how much we get? Or maybe should we go and buy a mic and start to do this full production level so that we can make the money.
Dude, don't even bring that up. How much money did I spend on like equipment that we just put aside? Actually, we still need to sell that thing, right?
Yeah.
We still need to sell that equipment. Yeah. So,
I was asked about that today.
Black magic. Oh, okay.
Yeah, Queen was asking me what's all these boxes here and who owns them. I said they are your equipment.
Oh my lord!
I said we're trying to sell them.
Learn. Like we should actually talk about that. It's a good lesson to learn. So, right. So as you may or may not know, Kola, right? I went to Nigeria. I went to go spend a year in Nigeria, and while I was there, I thought I would do like a podcast thing. So I call you up and I say, hey, let's buy a bunch of equipment. What we thought we could sell in Nigeria. So we ended up buying. How much equipment? Was it like $8,000 worth of equipment?
Yeah, 8,000 plus, yes.
8,000 plus worth of equipment. You sent it to Nigeria, and what happened? I didn't even record one episode. And when I was coming back, I brought the whole thing back with me, and now we're trying to get rid of it. So if you're looking for equipment to buy, if you go to set up a podcast, we have some black magic cameras and batteries and all other things. We could probably sell you a few of them. It was so ridiculous. This goes back to what you were talking about in the sense that I didn't necessarily plan that properly, right? I didn't really think about the plan. I had this vision of if we, just like you were saying, right? If we get 50 people to subscribe and they pay us $500 each, we're gonna get this much money. That's probably what I was thinking about in my head. Not really subscription, but I was thinking about what the vision would look like in my head. And I just said, hey, let me go buy all the thing I may need for it. I didn't really think about, okay, how am I actually going to execute on the idea, right? So the execution kind of failed as a result of that. So I don't really like sometimes, and I feel the same way when I play the lottery. I don't like playing the lottery because of that, because I get into this situation where I just bought a ticket. I'm imagining myself if I won the lottery.
Like this is a number that will win the million.
So like I'm imagining to myself, like, what would I do with the money if I won? And of course I never win, right? Because the probability of winning is so low. Somebody wins, but I've not won yet. So I just decided, hey, like sometimes you're focused on the wrong thing, right? You're focused on the wrong area. And sometimes that distracts you from actually doing the things you need to do now, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I need to fill you in on the joke of the podcast, the failed podcast plan in Nigeria. There's a running joke about that still in Nigeria. I still hear.
Oh, okay.
The joke is that you did not put the money up front. That if I put the money up front, you would have been successful. That ready to be, we are helping people like we are doing right now. And Nigeria is very ready to do. We are helping people. Everybody wants. So there's still a running joke over there that you came from America, you came to Nigeria, and you wanted to do a podcast, but you don't bring money. That's why the podcast bombed. So,
oh my lord, that's so funny. I think part of it is true, right? So on one hand, it is true that perhaps if I invested more money into like maybe hiring people and other stuff, maybe at least we would have recorded a few episodes, but it doesn't necessarily guarantee any kind of success, right? So when I mean success, I don't necessarily mean monetarily success. I mean just like you have a podcast that you're actually doing periodically, and you actually have a schedule, and it's getting some traction, right? It kind of goes back to, I think, I don't know if I was telling you this, or I was telling somebody else that doing business in Nigeria, I felt was very risky because of that same reason, right? Because you have to invest so much money to just start the business, right? You have to, because of the lack of power or the scarcity of power, you have to kind of have the power situation sorted out. That could be solar panels or generator with fuel or whatever. That's just so much capital that's sunk in to get the building, to get the whatever, and then you actually start the business. By the time you start the business, you're already negative 5 million, right? And we're talking naira, right? You're already negative 5 million. Then you start the business and you may find out that the business doesn't really survive 10 days, right? Because the business is not successful. There's also over here, for example, I can just go get a shop, right? Very cheap. I'm paying utilities on a monthly basis or whatever. I can go into ideas. I can only just do the business from home, right? And I can go into ideas without investing a lot of capital, very minimal capital just to start it up and see if it's getting traction. And if it's getting traction, I can always go bigger and bigger. Versus in Nigeria, you have to go big only to find out it doesn't work, or it does work, depending on how it goes, right?
Definitely. It's a challenge. Hopefully, we'll keep praying and hoping.
Praying and hoping. And like, let's be honest, Nigerians are motivated by money. Generally, we're not talking about like I don't mean to say negative things about Nigerians as a whole, but generally I think they are motivated by money. So if you have money, you can make things happen, I think. Or if you're willing to spend money. It's just that I don't know that you get a return on that investment is really what my concern is.
I think the people who understands the system know how to generate revenue from the business. Yeah. And what I mean is those who know that if I'm going to spend 5 million to go into this business is because I already have like a couple of contacts that are committing or going to commit at least 10 million each, where this becomes a business. Those who have that in place,
I don't know, brother.
Invest, they make more.
I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that. I would say it's my opinion, and this is not an educated opinion, but it's my opinion that the average Nigerian businessman may not necessarily be familiar with their numbers. I think sometimes they use the business as just a way to keep themselves occupied, and it may not necessarily be successful. Like, I mean, I feel as if a lot of businesses fail. You just don't necessarily have any good publication that tracks that.
Yeah, and I think success could be variable in that sense, because to the market woman who is just really selling pepper, tomatoes, and feeling that, if it costs me 500 naira to buy this and I'm getting 200 naira and I can feed my kids, that's success for her. That's a profitable business for her, because she kind of feels like it takes care of her needs. She's not trying to like be the next person who buys a car in the market. She's just okay coming to the market, selling as much as she can sell, repeating the same system, getting the kind of money that pays her bills. And to her, that's a success. Yes, she might not know the financial aspect of business where she can scale it to triple the revenue or to at least grow it year on year. But at least she just knows that it takes care of her everyday needs, and she's just okay with that. And which I don't think I don't want to say that's a problem, but at least it helps people survive.
Sure. I
So
think
it's
it helps people survive and it keeps them busy. I would say though that perhaps I don't know. I mean, you're using this example, right? And we don't really know the details, but I would say that it is possible that when you look at the market woman situation, it's not that she's getting a profit; it's just that she has cash flow, right? So, what for the limited amount of people that I know, right, that do something there, what usually happens is they are taking money from the business to do their personal stuff. So they commingle the personal funds and the business funds, and the business
Mhm.
are not necessarily doing well. When I mean well, I mean like making money. But because they are commingling the personal funds and the business funds together, they can't really tell. That's what I think. But who knows?
Mm.
I'll put you on the spot. What's going on with your Nigerian movie idea? Are we doing it? I was
Movie.
actually interested in doing that. Remember the Nigerian movie idea? I don't want to give the whole thing away because you may still do it, so I don't want to talk about the whole details.
With the way Nigeria. This is sad, but it's funny. with the Nigeria. You want to go out there?
I thought you were making fun of me just a moment.
No movie. I forgot it. Yeah. I don't remember the idea anymore.
Oh my lord! Oh.
Wow. At this point, everything is expensive. Anyone you call right now and say, we'll come and do a movie, they are charging you triple the money that they charged just this month ago.
Yeah,
right now. I tell you, dollar is already double and triple. So their whole price too is double and triple.
Oh.
No, I actually haven't thought about any. Right now, we're just thinking simple things. No big investments in Nigeria, because Nigeria now, if you're thinking movie, you're speaking millions, in upwards of 20, 30 million naira. If
So
you're going to do it,
I think we're talking I'm talking about the podcast. The podcast you were going to do about Nigerian movies.
Oh,
are you
gotcha.
Going to do that? We should do it. I think it'll be fun.
Well, I'll be working with the guys when I get to Nigeria to kind of see if there's a way to.
Are you bringing money with you, like the guys we're talking about? Why are they the ones that were telling you? No, my podcast failed.
You not bring money. Well, I'll get them to do a budget analysis, right, and say, okay, guys, if we're going to do this for the next 6 months or 1 year, how many videos can you guys produce, and what will be the cost of producing this per episode? If it works out, if I'm able to commit the money, and then I say, hey, yeah, let's do it, knowing that I will then have the job of dispersing the content online and start to create a foundation for how to monetize it. Because I am taking the money first. No free content. So
you see what I mean? You're so skeptical, which is good in this case, right? You're like you need to do that. But that's what I'm talking about. Like that's Nigeria. That's the average Nigerian. We are very skeptical people. So
yeah, we have, because unless that money is charity money, just
exactly, it's just gonna go. It's okay. Oh well.
Yeah, but that's not my number one priority. The farm, I think, will be my number one priority, and this will be the studio and the office. Everything media will be second priority. The first one is just the farm.
Did you move? As far as the farm is concerned, did you move from chickens to piggery?
Yes,
Is that done now? Is that the transition?
Yes, we started 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
With 16 pigs, and we're going to run that at least for the next 6 to 8 months, which would bring us into their reproduction period, and hopefully we can multiply the numbers. But it's basically 2 females and the rest, or 2 males, the rest is all female. So
Okay.
hopefully we can scale that, because from a cost standpoint, it will still be cheaper to run that type of business than it is to run layers, which is for birds right now. Because by the time we check the numbers for what it was going to cost us to buy all this feed and feed them to where, and also because you can't really ascertain the production uh, number for your birds, it's hard to really work out your profit, because it doesn't matter if you feed them for the next 3 months with 200 or 3 or half a million. If they are not producing enough egg for you to sell, it
Yeah.
defeats, and then it becomes a big loss.
What do the pigs eat? Like, what do you feed the pigs?
They also have their own produced, manufactured feed that we buy, but it's
Okay.
cheaper. They also have the option of eating pretty much anything you give them.
Okay.
So, which means we can always mix the feed, and not have to spend too much on
Okay.
feeding them. But in the case of birds, the science is you have to make them happy, or they're not going to give you eggs. So the food has got to be good
Okay.
nutrients, good volume. So you have to mix quality feed and the right volume to where they will just keep producing on a daily basis. And that's if you bought the right set of birds. So we've had issues in the past where we bought from a specific source, and either they didn't give them the right treatments when they were raising them, but the production quality was really low. And then we've had sources where the production quality was really good, like over 80% on a daily basis. But again, things have really just become so expensive now that it's hard to consider that. The meat market, I think, will still work, which is broilers. So you raise them just for meat, and no need, those don't lay eggs at all. That we're trying to consider doing a small chunk of that to start testing. And if that works out, we can then increase the production of that. But that's as far as I know. I don't understand the concept of pigs or concept of birds. The guy who does is doing it, so I'll just be there to kind of like check what's happening and get an understanding for the path for growth, revenue, and then market strategy. Because this is another new terrain. Just like when we started the birds, we didn't have a ready market. So because Nigeria is, you need to have the product before they even listen to you. They don't listen to you from a perspective of conversation.
Look at the guy that said I would call people up and ask them to give me money. So I have a question for you. Right. So you've had a lot of car troubles this week. 2 cars are like broken. They just stopped working. Um, you and I talked about some of the issues beforehand. We don't necessarily need to go through all of those things. The question I want to ask you, and you probably haven't thought about this, is what lessons are you learning from the experience, right? So this podcast is called the Better Informed Immigrant, right? Generally, unless you live in like New York City or some kind of major city, you're going to need a car, right? So one of the significant purchases for an immigrant is going to be a car, separate from paying for their rent and whatnot. And usually, for a lot of people, this is not necessarily the same for you, but for a lot of people, you buy the cheapest car you can find, which may or may not have mechanical issues. So sometimes your car just stops working, and these things are very expensive to fix here compared to the equivalent value in like Nigeria. So I guess my question to you is, what have you learned from experience this week, and what advice would you have for the community related to cars? And I know you are picky when you come to your car. We will talk about the Hyundai that you decided to get rid of, that I thought was really good car, but you talk.
I think the major lesson for me would be, it doesn't matter how little the fix is for a car. Fix it when it's happening. Like, the idea that it's not a major issue, it doesn't help, because one of the benefits I think of that is fixing that minor issue sometimes could help detect another major issue that probably hasn't escalated yet. But because we're always in the idea of, well, it's just a tiny stuff, it doesn't need fixing right now, we also become negligent where we miss out on fixing all the issues that could have prevented like what we're having today. Because we have talked about making like some adjustments, especially when it comes to getting cars to the auto shop and just doing it and making sure it's done rather than waiting. The two cars that broke down just the last 3 or 4 days, I know we've had several conversations about when it's going to get taken to the car shop, but it was just not prioritized. And I'm here thinking maybe if one of those cars made its way to the auto shop, maybe one of them will still be running now, or if both made their way to the auto shop. We never know, but I kind of feel like we could have prevented some of the things that we're going through now. So big lesson on that is it doesn't matter how tiny the issue is. If it's something that you're able to afford and fix right away, just fix it. Even if they say, oh, it doesn't affect driving the car. You never know, other things could be happening to the car that you taking it to that shop to get it worked on would help you address that other issue. So I would think, that would be the one thing or the major one for me, because I think we could have prevented some stuff by doing that.
I see your point. I think one thing I was thinking about, and I was thinking about it not related to this, but kind of applies a little bit to your scenario a little bit, I think, is having a plan. Sometimes we don't have plans until something goes wrong, right? And then we're trying to scramble to figure out how to fix it. So what I mean by having a plan is to think ahead. What are the things that could go wrong? And having a plan for how you may address it when they do go wrong. And that could be, for the purposes of a car, it could be making sure you have a mechanic that you work with and you have a relationship with a mechanic, even though your car doesn't necessarily need a mechanic at this moment, right? You already identified, okay, this is the mechanic I'm going to call if I have an issue. As I'm sure you know, I tend to subscribe to a lot of Dave Ramsey kind of stuff. He talks about the emergency fund, so having the emergency fund saved up so that if you had a car issue, you can actually spend some, you have the money available to spend on it. But that planning piece, part of just in the past few weeks, I've been learning a lot about different types of plans and things like that people have in place and whatnot. But I was just thinking to myself, like, it might not be a bad idea for people to look in their life and their situations, like what are the things that could go wrong, and just have a plan in place just in case that you guys can execute. And sometimes, you never have to use the plan, and that's fantastic. But sometimes you may need to use the plan, and the plan can be flexible, right? You can always change it. So that's something to think about. Like, I don't have a mechanic here. I'm in the Northern Virginia area. I don't have a mechanic here, but I do have a car. So one of the things I think I'm going to do over the next few days or weeks would be to try to identify a mechanic that I would work with if and when my car has an issue, because typically things like this happen, right? And they happen at the most unopportune time. Like, my mother just came from Nigeria. She came to your house. The plan was that she was going to drive her car from your house to her house, and she can't go anywhere because the car doesn't start, right? Yeah. It's like the car was working when she was in Nigeria. She got back, the car. Maybe we should tell her that she brought the cost of Nigeria or something.
And I just want to quickly point out that the aspect of having a mechanic you mentioned, I actually have that nailed already. So I have this guy next city. I went to his house already today. Normally it would be one guy I can just go to his house, either pick him up, bring him here, we'll check the car, and he might even just fix it right away, and we'll be good to go. The only issue I have is I go to his house today. This is a more personal information, but it's just interesting to know because it might help address the aspect of also having two plans and not just one.
Yep.
A backup, like having two mechanics, like mechanic one, mechanic two. For the first time, I got to his house today, and the person that was there told me that he doesn't live there. It was supposed to be his house. That's where he does his mechanic work. And I told them I've been trying to reach him. I couldn't get through to him. I sent a couple of messages. Usually he would have called me back. But the way I was attended to at the house gave me a different perspective of what could have been happening there. Maybe he was sharing a space, and maybe they had issues, because they told me to wait that they would give me his number, and they went in. The woman went in, came back. I saw the daughter, and then this other woman came out and gave me the same number that I've been trying for 2 days. I thought they were coming out with like a new number. She asked me what number I had. I told her the 475 something number, thinking that she was going to go in and come out with a different number. And then she said, "Oh, take this number." And then as I was typing the number in, the same thing came up. I'm like, "What is this the same number I have?" So in a way, I think my mechanic is missing. I don't know where he's gone. So I need to find somebody else. This guy who towed the car is based in, like, I would say 25 to 30 minutes away, but it could be another contact. But again, I have to give him a chance to work on one car first. And if he works out fine, then maybe it'll be the replacement. But to your point, maybe having, again, two contacts or two backup mechanic, just in case the one is not available anymore, at least you know the other person could be available.
Yeah, like when we're talking about planning, just to put that into place, I know we're talking about cars here, but remember there's a story of one of our acquaintances who just recently moved from Nigeria to here in the US, right? And he was living with a woman, and they had some conflict, and the woman kicked him out of the house in the middle of the night, right? And like he had to figure out what to do. And I don't know if he had a plan or not, but that just gives an example of like making sure you have, like, normally you wouldn't expect that to happen. Hopefully it never happens, but stuff goes wrong. And when stuff goes wrong, it's better if you have a plan that you can execute, right? That's so. And what you are saying is maybe it's even better to have a backup to your primary plan as well. And some of these things don't cost money. It's just you thinking about it in advance. And that's one thing I think when I look at either companies or like governments, whether it's the state government or federal government, that's one thing I think they do well compared to people's personal lives, right? The government usually has a plan, especially here in the US. They have a plan. The plan may not be a good plan, but there is a plan, right? And then, they try using the plan, and sometimes it works, or sometimes it doesn't work so well, and they modify the plan as they move forward, right? Versus, and I think that's something we could probably learn to apply to our lives as immigrants, to start developing some plans to help us as we figure some things out.
Definitely.
All right. I know you have to go and do some work where you're actually earning money. You didn't earn any money from this one. So do you want to cut it out here? Do we want to stop here, or do you want to talk about one more thing before we end?
I think that's it for me.